Self-love is the most radical form of activism because from it, all else flows. Here's the truth. Many of us weren't raised to love ourselves. Instead, we were taught to fit in, to perform, to prove. And so, the journey of self-love is one of unlearning, peeling back layers, and finally saying yes to who we are, imperfections and all. Let me be real with you, it ain't easy. But when you wake up to the essence of who you are, full acceptance brings a joy that is indescribable. Self-love in action, it shows up everywhere. The work we choose, the people we date, the food we eat, the boundaries we set. That's what this series is all about. Stories, tools, and reflections to remind you that self-love isn't selfish, it's sacred. I'm Nadine McNeil, Universal Empress, transforming lives one breath at a time. I cannot wait for you to dive in. Welcome back to the podcast series, Self-Love is a Practice. Today we're going to be talking about self-love and self-respect and what that means. One of my favorite quotes, we set the standard for how we are treated. I repeat, we set the standard for how we are treated. So if we want others to respect us, then we must respect ourselves. And respect is not something that you can demand from someone. When you show up embodied and self-respecting, by virtue of you respecting yourselves, you set the space, you command the respect of others organically so. So, what builds self-respect? Self-respect is born out of self-integrity. It is born out of saying what you mean and meaning what you say, where your actions and words are in alignment, where you're willing to speak truth, even though it may be uncomfortable for yourself and others. You're willing to take responsibility for your actions. All of these are things that build self-respect. You will recognize that by virtue of being self-respectful, you are strengthening the muscle of self-love. You might be saying, well, what's the difference between self-respect and self-love? There is and there isn't a difference, and the line between them is very fine. More than there being a difference, it's how they complement each other. Because as I said before, you can't be self-respectful and not love yourself. You can't love yourself and not be self-respectful. It just doesn't go hand in hand. So these are two complementary aspects. However, the more that you're able to love yourself, if you were not respecting yourself before, you will notice that you start to treat yourselves differently. Let's bring it back to something as simple as how you're feeding yourself. If you are loving yourself and you're loving the temple that is your body, you're not going to feed yourself with junk food, because to do that means you're disrespecting the temple that is your body. And if you're disrespecting yourself, then it means that you're not loving yourself. So you see, there's a correlation between the two. So you want to really develop self-respect as it refines your ability to self-love and vice versa. One of the things that contributes to self-respect, which I've spoken of before, is establishing healthy boundaries. Boundaries and walls are not the same things. When there are walls, it means you're blocking things out. Boundaries have room for expansion and growth and negotiation. Healthy boundaries are boundaries that are infused with respect. So if you receive treatment, because remember, no one does anything to us without our permission. So if you're experiencing a person or a situation in a certain way, rather than pointing your finger at them and judging them, remember, you have four fingers pointing back at you. The responsible and respectful thing to say to yourself is, how am I co-creating this experience? What in my actions has someone showing up thinking that it is okay for them to behave in a certain manner? And so if you say, listen, this is what's happening, this is what I'm experiencing, this is not okay with me because when this is happening, I feel this way. This is you taking care of yourself. This is you honoring your boundaries. This is you respecting yourself. So like self-love is a practice, self-respect is a practice. Here's the thing with self-respect. When you start to show up differently and expect others to treat you differently, you're going to get some pushback. There are going to be people and situations that are going to go, who do you think you are? And here's the thing, you know who you are, which is why you're now saying, this is not going to work for me. So continue to practice, continue to speak your truth compassionately with dignity and respect. And remember, self-respect isn't earned from others, it's cultivated within. I'm sure you're starting to get the rhythm and the frequency of self-love. It all happens within. And this is why I say what? Self-love is the most radical form of activism. Because when you're standing up for yourself, it means you're standing up for everything else that's happening in your lives. So, thank you for being here. This is Universal Empress, transforming lives one breath at a time. And so it is.